Hello, everyone. So, today I want to talk to you about the different methods of engaging the divine when it comes to building relationship or how you connect with the royal family. There's two main methods, and this is where a lot of confusion comes in, is because a lot of people don't know that there's more than one way of engagement, and they'll mix and match the different protocols relating to those different methods. And this is actually the answer as to why some things aren't working, why you'll notice one person do a thing and they get a result and you try that same thing and it doesn't work for you. Oftentimes it comes down to an internal posture. So we'll talk about that. The first path that I want to talk to you about is bhakti. Bhakti is a word, it's a Sanskrit word from the Hindu tradition, which means devotion. And that's really what this path is all about. This is what we're used to seeing in most religious circles. It's the emptying of oneself and the acceptance of another deity. It's devotion, it's worship, it's loving on them, it's flattery to the divine. It deals with a certain level of surrender, meaning that you're giving up your will to become just a servant for their will. You're emptying yourself and setting yourself as a vessel for them to move and flow through you, for you to do their will, for you to manifest their dreams on the earth. And the way that the bhakti path works, it's in that flattery, it's in that devotion, it's in that worship that, let's say you flatter the deity, you flatter the member of the royal family so much that they bless you. Through diligence, through love, you're able to pull on their heartstrings and they give you a little something. That actually works. Now, on the flip side, there is Shakti. Shakti is the Sanskrit word for power, and it's the path to power, the path of empowerment. And where Shakti differs from Bhakti in tradition and along the path is that Shakti doesn't take the posture of a worshiper. It takes the posture of a challenger, as a rival, as an equal. So their engagement with the divinity, whichever member of the royal family, it's not that of love and surrender, it's challenge. It's pretty much saying, put me through whatever you have to in order for me to get a blessing on the other side. You can't make me quit. You can't make me give up. I want this, and I'm going to make you give it to me. This is similar to what we see in the Bible, where you have Jacob wrestling with Yahweh in the wilderness, and he says, I will not let you go until you bless me. That's kind of the presentation of Shakti. And because of this, they typically don't engage on an intimate level. So having a deity help them usually doesn't happen. They get favors from gods, from entities, just because they've undergone certain training, certain challenges, and they've won those. It's very much an exchange rather than it a relationship. You think of the trials of Hercules. You do this, and this, and I'll make you a god. I'll give you power. I'll give you strength. So Shakti makes you work for it, but it's yours. It's the empowerment of you. So the mentalities are completely different. And just in that, hopefully you've seen where the difference in path changes how you engage. Because if you, so before I talk about that, I'll talk about sonship. Sonship is actually a fusion of both. I'll explain Bhakti and Shakti a bit more, and then I'll come back to that. But it's a mixture of both. One of the greatest Shakti path teachers was a saint called Swami Kaleshwar. And his interactions with Mother, he experienced her as a trickster, someone who would intentionally delay, intentionally mislead, intentionally set up barriers against him and his plans. So a lot of his students don't see Mother as trustworthy 100%. And that's simply because of the path that they were on. Instead of receiving from Mother through devotion, they're challenging Mother for power. And they get it, it works, and that's not even a bad thing. Don't look at it as good versus evil. These are just two methods of engagement. So he would talk about how when he wanted to bring people into the darshan of mother or the face-to-face encounter, oftentimes if he announced it, she wouldn't show up. So he had to sneak and go do it. It would be spontaneous. He said anytime he planned something, she would make sure to interrupt it. So they had a game of cat and mouse. That was his interactions with mother. And that can very much be real. That is an experience that you can have if you're engaging her purely from a Shakti perspective. And you'll find that a lot of the members of the royal family will do that. They'll test you, they'll try you for a little bit before you earn favor with them. They like to test resolve to see if you really want this as much as you say you do. If they can make you quit, they will. So they're testing resolve, they're testing determination, they're testing all of these different internal skill sets to see if you can withstand the storm. You're like, mother, I want to experience you however you are. And she shows up in a scary way. She's like, do you still want me? While I'm terrifying. Do you still want me when I look as scary as possible? She'll do that on purpose just to show you, just to show you where you're at, especially if you're on a Shakti path. Now, when it comes to devotion, there's a similar thing that occurs. It's just that it's for a different reason. So while devotion is somewhat aimed at, the worship and the surrender, all the religious stuff we're kind of used to seeing. Most religions are bhakti based. So while it's focused on that, the trials that come with it usually will happen in the life to see if bad things happening will get you to stop loving them. They already have infinite love for you. They're seeing if your love is as infinite for them as theirs is for you. So they'll intentionally let bad things happen just to test your resolve. Because it's easy to see, it's easy to believe that, oh, I love God while things are going well. It's when things aren't going our way that we start to question, is God really good? Do they actually care? Are they really loving? If they're loving, why are they letting this bad stuff happen? From a bhakti tradition standpoint, it's all about testing your love, not theirs. Their love is already infinite. They're testing yours. Hey, can you help me? And they don't, not because they can't, but they want to see, will you reject them? Will you disown them? Will you become an enemy simply because they didn't do what you told them to do or didn't do what they asked you to do? So you have the bhakti path, which focuses on, let's just say, full reliance. It's dependence. There's a famous saying we have in the South, say, if God don't do it, it won't get done. That is the heart of bhakti. So they're learning to surrender to the will of God, finding themselves in the will of God. They're surrendering. It's don't worry about me. Focus on the God that I represent. Focus on the God that I'm working on behalf of. They're telling you about a God that loves them and a God that they love. So their evangelism will usually be a call to love, which means it might be a bit more emotional. Their stories will be around what that God helped them through in order to gain their trust, in order to gain their loyalty. Sounds familiar, right? Where would I be if it wasn't for the Lord? That is bhakti tradition. Now, the thing about it is that it's similar to how in Star Wars they talk about the Force and the difference between the dark side and the light side. They have the light side, which is focusing more so on surrendering to the Force and letting the will of the Force flow through you. Then you have the dark side, which is more so about bending the Force to your will. This is a decent presentation of Bhakti and Shakti, except let's remove the dark and light archetypes because one isn't right or wrong. In fact, to be dramatic, I'll go back to what I was saying earlier, that they're both wrong. That sonship is actually a fusion of both. In that, what prevents us from experiencing the hardship and the hazing, for the most part, that comes with progress, leveling up, stepping into your own divinity, walking in your calling, your purpose, the thing that buffers from you experiencing what other Shakti practitioners are experiencing is Bhakti. It's the fact that you also have an intimate relationship with them. So now this is just family. This is just you operating within the family. You're a god, they're gods. You're just coming up to speed. So while you are growing in your own power, it doesn't quite register as a challenge to them. Instead, you have them helping you progress along your journey because it's a fusion of Bhakti and Shakti. There is a divine will, there is a divine identity that you're learning to surrender to, but they're empowering you apart from apart from dependence on them. So it's using Bhakti as the shield for Shakti. That is what I actually am in. That's what sonship really is. It's in the intimacy that we have with mother, with father, with Yeshua, and the rest that we gain access to them and their treasures. We gain access to their insight. We gain access to their power. We gain access to their involvement in our lives because it's a fusion, because I'm engaging them not as a stranger and not as a servant or a worshiper, but as a member of their exact family. I have a different method of engaging them. So what might take years for a Shakti and a Bhakti practitioner to experience doesn't take as long when you fuse the two together. Let love be the shield. Love covers a multitude of sin. Sin is separation. The thing separating you is your lack of love. It's not theirs. You don't love them enough. Or rather, you could say you haven't come into the knowledge of their love for you just yet. For many of you, the royal family, the Elohim, the Anunnaki, they're still in court. You're still figuring out if they're good, that you're stuck in the Bhakti part of this. Others are in a pseudo Shakti path where they're trying to empower themselves, but without any help. And that usually doesn't work. Or rather, it's much, much, much slower. There's a awkward thing that exists where it's kind of like an atheistic form of spirituality. Again, you cannot have spirituality without spirits. A spirit has to be involved in some way, shape, or form. But hopefully this gave you some insight and you're able to make the necessary adjustments. So just to use myself as part of this, I talk about relationship with the royal family. And because most of the time when you hear relationship, you're used to hearing it in a religious setting, and they're talking about just Bhakti. They're talking about the devotion. They're talking about the worship. They're talking about the shrinking of oneself. So it's somewhat of a projection. When I talk about relationship with them, it's not me as their servant or as their slave. No. And it shouldn't be you either. Your calling's much higher than a servant and a slave, than simply a devotee. No, your actual identity is equal to. Seated in heavenly places implies that you sit with the rest of the council of gods. You're there. So the sonship journey is about realizing who you are in the heavens and getting that entity, that version of you, to begin to express itself on the earth. You get to walk in power. You get to walk in connection. So this makes face-to-face interactions. This makes audible conversations. This makes visitations and ascensions and descensions. It makes all this stuff much more easy because you're not actually trying to gain approval. You're starting with the fact that you already have it. The thing that's likely keeping you back from experiencing more of the heavens and more of the royal family is your disbelief in their love for you. That yes, the actual royal family are embodiments of love. They just display it in many different ways. Even the ones that look rough, like Yahweh. He's still an embodiment of love. He's just a different type of it. I'll talk about that later. So hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you have something that you can apply to your life, some things to adjust to actually get you some results in your spiritual journey. As usual, if you want to connect with me, the courses, classes, events, books, and all the rest that I have going on, you can find everything on my website, caveofmystery.org. That's it. See y'all next time.